Just start with this.
Material painting feature in Ultra Engine. This is a really cool feature that totally changes the way that you can create game levels. Let's start by creating a box here. We've already got this concrete material applied to it, so now let's select the face tool, select that top face, and now we want to increase the number of subdivisions. And this is the easiest way to do it. Just keep hitting 2 until you get the amount you want. That's actually pretty good there. And now we're going to select the paint tool, and we're going to use this surface imperfections material is good. And you can see the highlight of the paint tool, and we're just going to click the mouse and start painting. This is a really neat feature. You can just paint any kind of detail anywhere. You can have up to 4 materials per mesh, so it supports quite a lot of detail. It also works with the tessellation system. So let's find a material with some good displacement, and now we're going to start painting these rocks onto the wall and see what happens. Now you have these rocks just popping out of this wall. So you can do quite a lot with this. Here's another scene that I created just in time for Halloween. And you have this alien flesh, gross stuff all over the walls. Very cool, along with rocks. I don't know why there's rocks coming out of the walls, but I think they look very cool. Let's see. Okay. I'm just going to play around with this a little bit and show you how it reacts. That is so cool. Now you can, let's see, you have some options for what gets painted. So if I want to only paint the object that I picked, let's say I want to remove all this goop from this block here, but I don't want to affect the floor around it. I'm going to hold the control key to remove for erase and then just start painting here. And it only removes it from the object that I picked. And I can do the same thing if I pick the floor there, and then I want to add the goop to this block, then I can do that. But I like having it everywhere. This is just really fun to play with. Let's decrease the strength of that brush so you can see a little bit. You can see better like how it reacts. So cool. You don't have to use tessellation with it, but if you do, you get this nice geometry just popping out of whatever surface that you painted onto, which is really, really cool. We also have some parameters for how this stuff blends. You can control the sharpness of it. Let's go here. There it is. Okay. Let's see. Blend settings. Okay, the smoothing, this basically controls how sharp the transition is. And then the height blend controls the factor, how much the displacement map affects the transition. So let's set that to 0. And then let's play around with the blend smoothing. You can get a very sharp transition like that, or you can have it, which does not look good. You probably don't want to do that, but let's smooth that out. And that'll give you more of an alpha fade over whatever distance you want. Now I don't like that either because it just looks like, it doesn't look like anything. It just looks like the two things are blurring together. So you probably want to set this, let's start at 20 and see what that does. See, that gives us some transition here where it's not really one material or the other. And if we want to make it sharper, we can. That's too much. Something like that is probably pretty good. Let's set it at 15. And then the height map will also determine like how much the... It's a multiplier for the displacement map. So if you have a displacement map with it, then the displacement map will start to have a heavier influence, basically. I think this equation can be improved a bit. Probably want to do like a square root so that it stays. Okay, so you can see as I increase the height blend, the outline of the shape is starting more and more to resemble the actual displacement of the object, which is probably what I want. So I'm going to set that to 15 and leave that alone. Yeah, you can see the high parts like here and here and here. These are poking out, and then it forms these very nice edges here around each shape. And this is so cool because, I mean, it's like you've got this unique detail everywhere. It's a lot like the mega texture technique that id Software used for some games, but you don't have, you can go back, everything's dynamic. Like you can go in and swap any of these materials out. You can change the parameters. If you don't like these bricks or something, if you want some different rocks, you can go back and swap them. So it's not baked into the texture. It's all dynamic. You can have up to 4 different materials per mesh. And I think this is one of the coolest features I've seen in Ultra, and I can't wait to see what you guys are able to do with it. And somebody posted a screenshot already. Let's take a look at that. From CoolX. Very cool. He's got some bricks, like some plaster, I guess. And then the bricks are showing up on the corners. Very artistic, very nice.
This would be very good for like plaster.
Yep. Let's see. I've got a couple of other screenshots to show some things. This is the first shot that really showed the tessellation in action. Again, it doesn't make it... I don't know why there's rocks growing out of the walls, but you've got this, like... It tends to look good when you have, like, one layer, like this gravel, and then you have another layer that it... Inside that. That's one technique that I already discovered. Here's an earlier shot. I really like these tiles. Not great painting, but you get the idea. It looks fantastic. You can just have this unique detail everywhere. I like the surface imperfections materials. Those are really good for adding detail in corners and stuff. This is when I like very first had it working. There's not even any alpha fading yet. This is an interesting one because with this I set the transition to be very, very sharp. And this is not one material with with trim baked into it. The concrete is painted onto the bottom. And what's really interesting is you get this detail that's, I mean, the vertex distribution is fairly sparse. I mean, you probably have like 4 vertices vertically here and like 8 across in this view, maybe 6. But the transition, if you can adjust the transition so it's very, very sharp, and so you get something that looks like it was painted at a much higher resolution. I was amazed when I saw like little details like this coming out, just because the alpha value of the vertex, probably way up here, was just changed a little bit. You get this little indentation here, which was really neat. Let's see what else.
I'm getting an idea now of something that would be cool. What about like a paint mask for the material? So, like in that example, like if you want to paint a concrete trim, you just make it would just be like a black and white image, and whatever's white will be affected by vertex painting. This way, if there's a part of the material you don't want
Mm.
to cover, you can control that per pixel.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Also, another thing you can do is this works with alpha blending and alpha masking. So if you had like a trim material, you could use alpha masking to cut out the parts that are invisible, and then just paint it across the bricks there, and the border would show up wherever you want it to. So in many cases, I think that can replace decals. Actually, I think a lot of stuff that we were going to use decals for can be replaced with this. I mean, decals, you really only need them for um, things where you have very precise positioning or very precise UV mapping. So basically, bullet holes.
Your ball holes are like the indicator strips in Cyclone, maybe posters, like a poster you put on a wall.
Yeah.
Um, blood splatters coming from an enemy, unless you want to like mess with vertexes in the API, which is probably not ideal.
It's no, it's probably that's exactly what I do to paint this stuff. So it's not that hard. You just have to find all the vertices within a certain range, and then apply them relative to like wait. I do it like weighted by distance.
Well,
Um,
I think with like things like blood and paint and all that, I think the vertex system will be actually better because because the more it's affected, the the more gradual it'll be. It won't be two overlaying images.
yeah, yeah. With blood, I could go either way with that. I mean, you might want to have like a puddle, a distinct puddle with very distinct edges, or you might want to just like if you want to paint the walls with gore, then
Mm,
this system would allow you to do that with paint. I would definitely use material painting for that because it would just work so well.
right. But just to confirm, decals aren't going anywhere.
No, it's just I think they're the amount of things that you need them for is greatly reduced.
Right.
I haven't done any side by side comparison, but I believe material painting will be more performant than having a bunch of decals because there's a lot of math to figure out. Like decals are basically the same cost as a light almost,
Right.
minus the shadow rendering.
I would think the opposite because now you have to subdivide all your brushes.
Well, assuming the brushes are already subdivided, um, and also, I mean, the additional cost of those extra vertices is not really. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty negligible. There's another shot from Coolx. Very very cool. So this, I mean, this totally changes our capabilities. I started this like last Saturday because I was getting kind of frustrated with the issues we were having with like level design, and I thought, well, I had the brush subdivision in, which was the probably the hardest part, and so I thought, well, how quickly could I possibly get this done? Let's just try it. Let's just start on it and see how fast it goes. And yeah, this is the brush subdivision, which I had to do for tessellation. And then once I had this, it was like, well, how fast can we do this? So I was going from like Saturday afternoon of last week to Friday, Friday morning, yesterday morning. I was just working on this, and I got it out in a really short amount of time. I know there's a lot of outstanding bugs right now that need to be attended to, and I will focus on that next. I mean, this is basically done. And I think for the next couple of weeks, I'm just going to be doing bug fixes. But this was an incredible feature to get done in such a short amount of time, and it makes such a huge difference in our capabilities of. I mean, this totally changes everything. We can do things that we could not ever do before. Also, I added a, let's see.
Yeah, you have the bug on this machine. You have the
Yeah,
same thing up. Yeah.
that's all right. I'll get it worked out. Um, we have a saturation value for materials. Now, this is basically black and white already, so you can't really see
You
the
just want
difference.
to use. Oh, you don't have the depth textures in this build in this project because I have like a lot of colorful things in there. I think yeah, you just have the basic grays and whites. Uh,
This one's purple.
yeah,
Okay.
more of a blue, but yeah. Try
Oh, it's
changing it to a
using the
PBR. Yeah.
unlit. Let's change it to PVR.
Right there.
Okay, there we go. Okay, I felt like we needed this. This gives you control over the saturation of each material.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of the transparency so
Okay.
we can see it. Yeah. Because we had a lot of, yeah. We had a lot of materials from Ambient CG that I felt were clashing quite badly. Let's see.
Yeah, because all these materials are made in a vacuum, pretty much. So.
Okay, that's one that's quite bright. I think there's like some corrugated metal that. Oh yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so let's
that blue or that yellow, like that's
let's
very saturated.
let's download this guy. And I set a default saturation level here. Ambient CG default saturation. Oh, I want it to be 35 probably.
Yeah, it's not
But
because everything was gonna be black and white, and then it's gonna be like, why is it black and white?
okay, so this is what it looks like normally with desaturation. That's what it looks like. This is good. So if you have if you set your saturation for stuff like this to around 30, 40%, then all of this stuff that formerly was really clashing will start to merge together a lot better. I think I uploaded a screenshot here.
I don't think you did.
Yep.
Oh yes, you did.
So here's what Ambient CG, what their materials look like by default. This looks like all indie games, basically. And then you just apply some desaturation to them, and now they look. I don't like this grass here, but these would all work together now. Whereas here it looks awful. So that's one. I mean, you don't. There's other ways to do it, but desaturation is like the easiest way to eliminate extreme color clashing. Some games do have very bright saturated colors, but they usually tune their color palette very, very carefully. If you don't want to do that, then desaturation is the easiest way to fix that. So this really changes my outlook on level design, because now what we want is actually we want a bunch of PBR materials that are fairly neutral and just kind of hang out and sit in the background and don't stand out very much, which we have. We
Mhm.
have thousands of those, and then you take like fairly neutral, undetailed materials like this.
Yeah, the concrete we never had a problem with because they were just right.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but you take this stuff that would otherwise be pretty boring, and then you make your level with it, and you apply your materials, and then you pretty it up with all this detailing, like Kulex is showing us here. This is the first screenshot anybody has posted of this, and you have some very interesting stuff going on here. You could actually do a little bit better job with the displacement here. If you increase the value for the displacement blend, the bricks will they'll tend to cut off on the bricks, so you'll have like more distinct brick shapes. But this is the first screenshot anybody has posted other than me, and it's already demonstrating very, very advanced uh, design here that has not been possible before. We could have made this in a texture, but we'd have to make like one special piece here, and then another special piece and another special piece, which is the kind of stuff we've been talking about. And it's just when you have to do it that way, it's possible, but it's so much work that it really like kills your motivation to work on anything, because it's a lot of trouble to make something very, very specific. Like if you made textures like this, you would have to they're only going to be used they're only going to be good for use with everything else that you created to work with them. We've had a lot of problems with that. Even like with the same person, we have a lot of problems with consistency of the textures when we're trying to design things that look interesting. And I think all of those problems go away now. I think this is a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
So, what questions, comments, ideas do you guys have about material painting?
What's the box in the paintbrush tool? The black box that like, because right now when I was playing with it, um, I think it's a little bit like I understand why the materials are in the face tool. But yeah, that box. I don't know what the
Oh,
box
this
does.
is the. I was trying to get the material thumbnail to show up here.
Uh,
So you have two ways to. I found pretty quickly actually that you need to be able to access this stuff two ways. You need to be able to
yeah.
see exactly what materials are applied to a specific surface, which is what this does. And this
Right.
will allow you to replace them, remove them, move them up and down, clear and fill. You have to have this. But and that originally that's how I was going to do things, is like you would select one of these and then like start painting that specific face. But
Right.
you also want to be able to select a material and just start painting everywhere. So that's sort of like a top down approach where you have your level, you have the material you want to apply, and you just want to start applying it everywhere without worrying about the details of this. So what it
Right.
does is it will look for an open slot. First it will look for the material if it's applied to the face. And if it's not, it
Mhm.
will look for an open slot where it can be inserted. And if an open slot is not found, then it will find the weakest. It will find the material where the vertices have the weakest influence, and it'll replace that. And so that way you're able to just select your material and start brushing everywhere you want and have it work like that. I think now right now you have to browse and select the material. I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to replace this with a. You're just going to have this thing that looks sort of like like the project browser here, but it's just going to show you all your this whole area here will be all your recently used materials. And then you can just click on the thumbnail you want, and that'll be the material you use. And then as you, and then you can also add more to that list if you. There'll be a browse button somewhere else. I didn't have time to create a whole new like fairly complex interface like this.
Right. No, it's just I saw an empty box and I was like, oh, what should we go there?
Yeah, yeah, that was just gonna show the material, like a material thumbnail, like a circle with it. So that's gonna be the how the final interface looks. But right now, I was just trying to get something that actually works.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah,
Oh, cool. All right. I just wanted to jump in quick and just say I love that you're keeping it so straightforward and like intuitive to do because I'm just imagining what this would be like in certain other engines. You'd probably need a college degree just to figure out the interface. But yeah, that's awesome. I've never seen anything like that in another engine. That's that simple.
thank you. That's yeah, that's what I try to do. When you prioritize your features, I think this okay. What I really like about this is it really shows the strength of having the level design tools built into the editor, having them front and center, instead of it just being like a feature that's maybe an add-on that's packed away under 20 layers of other things. Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot of fun for you guys.
Yeah. Well, that kind of seems to be your thing, though, right? Like you really seem to really work to make everything as intuitive and just easy to just jump in and do as possible, which is again, it's rare. You don't see that in very many engines, not the ones I've looked at anyway.
Thank you, thank you. That's what I try for.
And you can see the bug in this build and this machine. Like the brushes are really, really dark and white
Oh,
so dark.
I think it's just the default material for some reason.
No, I was having issues. I just did like a basic room with a cube map and a light, and it was like not working. I don't know. I got like a lot of normal stuff. Like it didn't look right, and also my probes like the model for the probe wasn't showing up for some reason.
Yeah. Um, yeah, if you are for those who value stability, the default branch is the place to be right now. Um, Admittedly, like yeah, there's some errors in the shaders and stuff. I need to get that worked out this weekend. But yeah, I just this took all of my time, and it was quite it was a quite big change internally to the engine. Meshes can now accept up to 4 materials, so the set material and get material commands now accept an optional index argument. So you can apply 4 materials to a mesh, and each material can have 32 textures. So that means you can pack 128 textures into a single mesh, which might be good for some other things. Who knows?
We probably should do a when we do the FPS template again. We should probably do a component called like a painter component where it just vertex paints. It just does a pick and it just vertex paints the face. This way, people can have
Spray
an
paint.
example. Yeah, or something.
That'd
Like
be
it's
cool.
just like yeah,
Or your alien goo gun. Oh, we can make
yeah.
like a goo gun that shoots like green stuff and have it like pile up
Oh,
instead of it just disappearing.
like the one from on the tournament, the bio rifle, I think it's called.
Except having it like have it make like piles and piles of alien stuff that sticks
Yeah,
out and sticks to the
that's or
walls, and that would be
that's
so cool.
yeah. I think that's what it does. It doesn't do it with tessellation. It just piles models on it, but because the goo is supposed to, because then the goo travels to the enemy, but we can just paint.
We
on the
can make the
material.
blob like creeping through the level or whatever. So let's see.
Mm.
I think some game had like a glue gun or something.
Does this
Um,
work on any kind of mesh or only brushes?
Currently, it only works on brushes because okay. So
I mean, it's awesome that it does on brushes. I was just curious.
the answer is yes and yes. So the system it's not exclusive programmed exclusive to brushes. Like brushes are just a mesh at the end of the day. They're just a mesh construction object basically. If you do this in code, it will actually work on any mesh. But brushes are the only object in the editor that's unique for the scene, whereas meshes are like 3D models are all instanced. So if there is no interface right now to paint this stuff on 3D models in the scene, and if there was currently, like if you painted it on one instance of the mesh, then every single instance would have the same detail. So
Because I'm thinking of like organic things is what I was wondering. I have in mind.
yeah. So there's I think there's going to be two. I want to support that, and I think there's going to be two ways people use it. One I think is going to be like you'll just open your 3D model in the interface here, and you'll just start painting in here somehow. I'm not sure exactly what the interface for that is going to look like, but yeah, you'll have your like right now you have one material listed. You'll have your other materials listed, and then somehow there'll be a paint tool in here so you can just detail this guy up. And I think a lot of people will use that for really quick detailing. Like if I want to add some, if you've got a car and you want to add some rust on it, that's like a super easy way to do that. And then make your changes and save the file. And that's for like just making your models prettier. But then I think people are also going to, I know, like they're going to want to be able to place things in the scene and then be able to paint unique detail in addition to like that instance detail. So in that case, we're going to have to do something totally new, I think, and that's we're going to have like unique paint vertex material weights per instance, which is quite different. Like we don't have anything in the engine like that right now, but it's not that hard to do. Actually, I used to do stuff like that like way back in the day when we used to do light mapping and vertex colors for static lighting. I had unique vertex colors for each instance of a model. I don't even remember what product that was, but yeah, I mean that's basically the same idea. Have a little bit of unique geometry information, but most of it is instanced. Of course, that's several steps. So that's why I started with just brushes. But yeah, that's what I plan on doing.
So, how does this affect collapsing brushes? Because you mentioned in the future you want an option to collapse the brushes into chunks like Lightworks does. So, how would this affect that?
I don't even know if that's very important. I don't even know if it's needed. It doesn't affect it anyways because meshes are it's just a mesh, so it doesn't
Right.
matter. Um, right now, the brushes are just individual objects, and there's doesn't seem to be any performance penalty for that in Ultra. In fact, it might be quite a lot. It might be faster even because when you factor tessellation into it, you don't have to worry about you don't have a bunch of off-screen tessellated triangles that way. So it might actually be better for them not to be collapsed.
So you're pretty much like now thinking against not collapsing the brushes now.
There's no big motivation for me to do that.
Mhm. Again, I just want to be sure because yeah. because there might be instances where you want like, oh, this is an actual brush. This was something the level editor actually put in, not just a prop. So
Yeah, and if we need to, it's not difficult to change to modify that behavior, but I don't really see any reason for it right now. I also had a very cool idea. I think I removed smooth groups from the face properties because I didn't like the way they were working in LEDWorks, and I did this in. I started to do this in like one previous build of Ultra. If you had like a concave object, it had to be made out of multiple convex brushes. And what the smooth grip system did is it would look for neighboring, it would look for nearby brushes, and then it would check to see if there were any edges that lined up with the edges of this object. And then if they had smooth grips in common, then it would make that a smooth. It would use that to change the vertices to make, and that's how you would do like an arch with the inside of it looking smooth. I don't like that. I think what we're actually going to do is we're going to introduce brushes with some relaxed constraints. So they won't have to, it'll have characteristics of a brush like the face UV mapping tools and stuff, but it won't have to be a convex object. It can do, you can have concave objects, you can have like a plane that just has like a back face. It doesn't have to be solid. We just have to have a way to like create those and like mark it when it's created as being whatever, this origami kind of object. And so it'll be like kind of like a mesh and kind of like a brush. And you can do things like that, like create a plane out of multiple segments, and then have as many vertices as you want, and then use those vertices to drag those around and make like a little patch of terrain. And since we have the painting system, you can treat that just like you can paint that as if it was a terrain. So I think that'll take care of something that one of our users was asking a lot about, and it'll also solve the problem of smooth grips for me. I don't like Source Editor 2. I think they went like off the deep end with the mesh construction stuff, because whenever I watch a video, one of their video tutorials, it's like, oh, just hold the H, Shift, Space, and number lock keys all at the same time. Stand on one leg and hop 3 times. Recite the Pledge of Allegiance, turn around twice, and smash the keyboard with your left hand, and it does exactly what you want. Isn't it easy? Wow, this is so easy.
Like I said, college degree.
Yeah,
Wow.
like I seriously, like I watched some videos where he was like, oh yeah, this is really easy. You just press H, up, down, square, left, right, and jiggle the mouse and pop, so the word that I think describes that is unpredictable. It's
yeah,
just like unpredictable behavior.
and it also slows down the workflow, like with the meshes, like with the CSG stuff. You're pretty much taking what Source One had and modernizing it without compromising the ease of use of how that worked, which I think is fantastic.
This right here is the most important action in game development.
Yes,
Just
I
being able
also,
to do that.
I also duplicate a lot, and
I can't do this in 3D Studio Max. I wish I could. Just
yeah,
being able to do
and
that.
and you're the only person that, besides me and probably a few others at home, that values that. Like, you can make prototypes of levels so quickly with just like, I don't care if they're like, yes, they're brushes, but to me, I don't care what they are. I just want to create it like it was a CSG object. Like, I don't care like if it's technically a mesh or it's technically a brush. Like, just that workflow.
Well, I agree with you guys. I have always valued that. I like that simplicity and the ease of use, and that having the level design tools like front and center like that. And what I think is really cool about the material painting feature is that is a demonstration that just like takes it to the next level, and it's a
Right.
demonstration of why this approach is so good.
If you get best of both worlds, you get the vertex painting, you get like, but you don't have to do wall meshes and all this stupid nonsense.
Yeah, I think it's really really cool stuff.
Yep.
So that's the plan with like the future of like how we're. That's why I removed the tube primitive because I don't like the way that works. We're gonna have like some. I'm not even sure what it's gonna be called yet. I'll probably just call it meshes in here, even though it's kind of a hybrid object. It'll have the UV mapping like this and all these characteristics, but it won't have to be a solid object.
Nice.
Other stuff. Klepto just released his reworked post processing effects, and let's take a
I would,
look at some of his. I think he's got some screenshots.
I would try this when the editor works again, when the engine gets patched, because I've been looking forward to this. Because we were talking about it, I think last week or the week before, and it's like, yeah, it would be really nice if Klepto releases post processing stuff.
Yeah, so he reworked my SSAO. His bloom looks way better than mine. Depth of field, tone mapping, and he has volumetric lighting. The thing I'm most interested in here, well, I mean, I really want to like. I think the bloom is like the best. Is the thing that's really standing out for me that I really want to see, because he's shown some screenshots of his bloom that are like the behavior is just so much better than what I created, and
Hmm.
I'm happy to admit that. So that was just actually like posted like an hour ago.
Well, m- maybe like would maybe it might be worth it to make his shaders more the default. They're better than yours, if you think so.
Oh, so they're better than mine.
Well, you
Yeah, they
admitted
are.
it the other day. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I mean, as long as the performance of them is good, then okay. If the performance of them is comparable to what we have right now, then yeah, I would say that.
Well, I think he also adds options to his shaders and the more accessible. I think he puts defines up top. Maybe the next update or whenever you have time, maybe we can look into material parameter shader parameters. So
Yeah,
instead of modifying a text file, you can just adjust the slider.
yeah, for sure. So definitely that's available in the showcase forum right now. So definitely check that out. Um, yeah, it's MIT licensed, so anybody can use it. Very very cool stuff. I also let's see. I did some experiments. These are just manually uploaded. I just wanted to see what it would look like. So Ambient CG has a web API, and we're using it with great results. I use this all the time now. Like I rarely use textures from any other website now because it's just so much work to convert them and import them and stuff. I just like this because I can just click on things and it installs it and it's ready.
Right.
So this
Especially now with vertex painting. Now it's like, oh, this will look good only in like certain areas, but not as like a wall texture. But
yeah. So this approach has been very very effective. You know, we didn't know exactly like how well it was going to work when we started, but now we've had some time to work with it and it's like, wow, this is I don't want to use anything else. Okay, so they have a web API. Polyhaven has a web API.
there's that other texture site that we were looking at.
Share Textures has a web API. Their stuff isn't bad, but I think it's more focused on like architectural visualization because it tends to be like IKEA materials for your countertops, the versatile solutions for modern living.
That could be good for architectural. Like if you have a customer that does architectural design.
Yeah, for sure. But I don't want to. I don't want to do terracotta and granite countertops. I want alien
Right.
intestines crawling out of the walls.
Right. Chipped concrete and all that.
They should sell like countertops like that at IKEA. Anyways, um, okay. So share. So okay, there's three maybe systems with a web API. Texture Can, all their stuff is CCO. They have some nice stuff too. So that's like probably another 600 materials. How many do you think they have? 630 free PBR materials, and this is all CC0, CCO, which is critical because that means it can be redistributed with no restrictions. A
Right. And you
PB,
can modify them and everything. So.
well, you can just upload them. They're public domain, so you can just upload them like straight up, and they don't belong to TextureCAN any more than they belong to anyone else because it's public domain at that point. PBR PX. This is not. They have some really good stuff, and I believe they're all CCO. Let's see. Where's the license information on this? I think they are. They don't have a web API. TextureCAN does not have a web API. Yeah, CCO. So I can implement at most. Oh, Sketchfab has a web API, but Sketchfab is probably going away forever.
Yeah.
So I can implement 3 different APIs and still only have about half of the materials alone. That does not half the content, but that's only half the materials. So, and also these guys, they don't really have any motivation to make a web API. Let's see. Well, okay, he's not doing any advertising. I think TextureCAN has ads. Maybe. I don't see any ads here either. Do I have an ad blocker working maybe? Okay, well, a lot of these guys do make their money by advertising. Let's take a look at CG Bookcase. Oh yeah, CG Bookcase is another one. I believe they're all CCO. 100% free, no restrictions, so you say. Let's see. Okay, I think he just charges for to give you the ability to. Okay, I guess I don't really see any advertisements. They're mostly like asking for money on Patreon, which I probably do not mind backing some of these people because they're providing some really cool stuff. Anyways, they don't seem too interested in making a web API. And even if they were, only some of them are doing it. And even if they were all doing it, that only covers your materials. It doesn't cover your 3D models. So, I went and I tested. I said that I would not attempt another like store content kind of store until we had the actual content. I said that was the bottleneck. Well, now we do have the content. We probably have about 2,000 or 3,000 free, high quality, public domain PBR materials. There's 2 of them. There's too much stuff here to manually upload it all. But I did make quite a lot of progress in figuring out how to. This system has a web API, and I was able to sort of upload a file using the web API. There are some issues, like it requires base 64 encoding. So right now it does not appear that I can upload a zip file unless it's base 64 encoded, and then it's no longer a valid zip file. Now it's this binary blob that can be downloaded and decoded back into a zip file. And I was not able to get the thumbnail to work for some reason. But I did make quite a lot of progress. So I think what I can probably do is download all this stuff and maybe give these guys some money. Just I don't have to, but because it's free, it belongs to everyone. But maybe just donate to them just because they did some really cool work. And then upload that all automatically in one pass so that the whole material section is full of stuff like this.
I think we should have a section of stuff that's just taken from elsewhere and just compiled for Ultra Engine, and then actual like user made stuff, like people that actually made handmade stuff.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that too. I'm not sure what the right approach is. And then okay, so we have probably 3,000 PBR materials that could be automatically uploaded with no need for quality checks because they're all good. With Sketchfab, it's kind of like I'd say like 90% of Sketchfab models suck and are unusable. And then you also have some that are 3D scans, so it'll be like, which is, let's see. I think I uploaded that. Maybe I didn't upload. Maybe I uploaded it in the forum. But that graffiti alley scene, that's like 1,000,000 polygons, just for a wall because it's all 3D scanned.
It's under what's new, the graffiti alley.
What?
There it is.
Oh, I just didn't recognize the. Okay.
Yeah, that thumbnail.
Yeah, you can see this is like 1,000,000 polygons. This is someplace in Baltimore, actually. I thought it was Venice Beach. Well, actually, this does not. This building here does not look like Venice Beach, but the rest is.
Why is it that high poly?
Because they just walked through with 3D scanning equipment and scanned all this. Okay, so Sketchfab, I think the issue there is quality control. And there's also, even if Sketchfab goes away, there's something else called Obverse, and basically somebody they went through and downloaded a bunch of models from Sketchfab and other places. Explore, yeah. So what's something that you want for making your game, like an axe? Okay, you've got 1,000,000 different axes to choose from. Some of these are quite good. Yeah, that looks great. You've got gun. 1,000,000 different guns. And I think all of these are either CCO or CC BY, which just means you have to give attribution to the author. I think some of them are CC non-commercial, and we would probably want to filter that stuff out. But the majority of them, I think, from what I've seen, like the majority of this stuff is just attribution required, which is perfectly fine. It would be really nice if we could just have very easy access to all of this stuff in here so that when you type in spaceship, you get a million spaceships to choose from. That would be very nice. Let's see what we've got here. So even if Sketchfab goes down tomorrow, we've got a more than a lot of 3D models backed up on Obverse. They're actually doing this for AI training. They don't have a web API for this. They just have some Python thing. So, and the you can download the content, and that's basically a database. It's all stored in a bunch of JSON files, and I think it's about 300 megabytes of JSON files. Not the actual data itself, just listing all the files they have and their location, the location for the file itself. It's all GLB files, and then the thumbnail, the screenshot, and the model information. It's like 300 megabytes or something like that. It's a lot. The actual data is probably, I don't know, maybe 10 gigs. But data is cheap. I mean, it's like, what is it, like 2.5 cents per gigabyte on S3. So we actually can store quite a lot. So I don't know, like we could, maybe take all that JSON, all those JSON files, and put them in a database, in like an SQL database, and create a web API that would run on our server, on the ultraengine.com server, but it would fetch data from here. Well, this is actually hosted on Hugging Face, which is, I guess it's some AI thing. This is all being used for training AI models. We could do that, or we could just filter through this stuff. A space shuttle with a giant gun on it. Filter through some of this stuff and download everything that has like a rating above a certain level, and then automatically convert that and upload it into our system here. And then we would just have one point of access that would replace the Ambient CG browser here. And we also have the Sonus sound files, which I'm not sure what the distribution terms on that are, but it would probably be okay. So now we have a plethora. Now we have an enormous amount of content. We have more content than we can use. We have more 3D models. If you looked, I mean, there's so many 3D models in here that if you looked at one every 5 seconds for the rest of your life without sleeping, it would still take you like 300 years to go through. Like that's roughly, like that's the amount of data and files that we're talking about here.
Yeah, but there's also like a lot of noise and a lot of things that probably you wouldn't want to use for games. Like the same deal with the sounds. Like there's probably just like an hour long wave file of just birds chirping.
So okay, so that we no longer have the problem of not enough content, though. We solved that. Now we have the problem of
Too much to go through and organize and actually say, yeah, this is actually good.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I think, even if it's very rough, I think simply they do have a rating. They do have like a view count and a rating count in here in this data. So, I mean, just filtering out everything that has like less than 100 views, it's going to be a very rough filter. Maybe you'll get rid of some things that are good. Maybe you'll include some things that are bad. But on the whole, like, I think that will probably be an effective way of filtering through an enormous amount of data without going through it by hand. And I don't really care about each individual 3D model in the system. All I care about is when you type something in, you'll get a result. And somewhere in there'll be a few choices that are pretty usable. Let's see. Hovercraft. I want to make a hovercraft. I want to make F01. F02. There we go. That's my racer. Now I'm going to make a game with it. Tch. Yeah, so I don't know. Like, that's. I'm kind of leaning towards. Oh, that looks cool. Huh. I'm leaning towards our own system, like this system, because we can access this with the web API, um, and then automatically converting and uploading all that content. Of course, that means that if somebody does upload their own 3D model on here, it's probably going to get completely drowned out.
Right.
Um, and for that, like, I mean, we do have the ability to like feature different items like you see here, and so those will be brought to those will have higher visibility. That might actually be a good solution. Have like a section of like featured items that were like handcrafted specially for.
Well, you also have the DLC market too.
Yeah, of course, yeah, and DLC, and so what we've seen is like, okay, so we can sell items files through this system.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, what we saw was Steam Workshop has the lowest sales. Our own website had higher sales than that, and then the Steam DLCs have the highest sales.
Right. Just on the page and everything.
If at the same time, like, if this system is full of a lot of content and people start relying on it very heavily, like we are right now with this,
Uh-huh.
then I could see these sales. I could see this becoming a viable place to release content, because I could see the sales here being actually pretty good, because if people are just hooked on using this stuff and they see the paid items appearing in the search results, then I could actually see that working out.
Right, but I would imagine like you want the paid, like the DLCs would be like a like kind of like an example package. Like it comes with an example map. It comes with models and textures all for like a theme or whatever. While the raw downloads are just raw materials and raw models fetched throughout the internet. While the
Yeah.
DLCs are more curated for the engine.
Well, I think the DLCs are the bar. The bar there is definitely higher,
Right.
and it's also like there's quite a lot of work involved in just setting up the store page for a new DLC. It actually
Right.
takes a lot. I mean, it's probably like several hours worth of work. Um, so like you don't make a DLC with just a material
Right.
or just a single model. Well, I did, but um, like this is not a DLC.
No.
But I mean, still, we want people to be able to access this stuff. I think it's interesting that the single file approach has been so successful. Instead of like packs of materials, like people prefer to browse through and just download individual files.
Yeah.
And I do like the consistency of the previews here. You can see very easily what it is you're getting.
It can be different. With some materials it can be a little bit different, but not that much. Again, it just like looks darker.
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, it's not like, I mean, they're just showing you a sphere with the material applied to it, so it's very easy to compare. Let's see. So yeah, I think that's about all I have to talk about this week. Do we have any questions or comments? We talked about the material painting feature. We talked about Klepto's new post-processing effects. We talked about a little bit about brushes and future plans for mesh construction in the editor with level design tools, and we also talked about kind of like content and how we're going to make that, how we're going to continue to make that more accessible in the editor. Do we have any questions or comments, hopes, dreams, ideas?
Um, Not on that. I just really interested to see what's coming up. I do have that item extension I did for Visual Studio. If
Oh
you
yeah,
can,
yeah. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
yeah. Um, so in Visual Studio, you can actually make templates and and code snippets. You just it's I found Anthony Python actually linked me to an article that showed you like how to do it. And we have an issue where when for C++ users, when they make a component in the editor, it doesn't go into that project. So the solution is just to have that feature in Visual Studio. So when you hit like you right click add new item, you can actually pick between like a Ultra Engine component or an Ultra Engine object. So I can actually demonstrate that really quick. I just gotta open a Ultra Engine project. I haven't uploaded it yet because one, I forgot it, I did it, and two, you have to just you can't one thing important thing you can't just extract. You actually have to put the zip in the template file. So let me pull that up real quick on the screen. Sure. Okay, so we're gonna load. So we have our project here, and in so give me a second. So in everyone, so when you install Visual Studio, you in your documents folder, there's something called templates and code snippets. So we went to templates, item templates, C++, and I have two zip files here. One is one's for a component and one's for an actual object. So with that installed, I can just right click on my source files and I can hit new item. And now in my selection here, I actually have an option here to create a component or I can create an object. So let's actually create a component in the right folder. So I'm going to make a component here. I'm going new item. I want to make a component class. So I'm just going to call it my cool component. And and one important thing here, you actually have to like use here, which I don't really like, but you actually have to components. You actually have to point it to it, and we hit add. And now you have your component all set up, ready to go. I have mine's a little different from the default because I actually have enable, disable, and toggle already set up because I think all components should have enable, disable, toggle set by default. But you got your headers set up properly, and it also makes your JSON file, which is just and it is in a template, so you can write your own. But it'll actually add it to your project file. So when you work on your component, you can edit your JSON file in the same editor, which is more convenient. So I don't want this.
That is
And the same,
awesome.
yeah, and the same thing can happen with an object. It's just that's just a simple class, and if you're making something that's not a component in Ultra Engine in C++, it should be an object. This way you can like pass it through events and all that nonsense if you need to. And it just makes an object class doesn't really carry that much. It's just a class to make using small pointers easier with casting. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I'll probably
Awesome.
just upload these two zips and you just install it in your item templates folder, C++. And when we get C sharp, same deal. We'll just make a C sharp version and we'll just paste it in there. that's the hardest part was getting the logo right because I think so when you hit new, just real quick, when you hit new item, actually this is actually a black logo, but Visual Studio inverts the colors. So we're gonna do this live. Yeah, we're gonna do this live. Options. We're gonna go to themes. Let's go to themes. All right, so I'm gonna go to like a light theme. So blind your eyes. Okay. So let's see what that looks like. So I'm gonna do this. Add new item. Yep. So now it's black with the light theme.
Oh, that's
So
interesting.
yeah. So
Cool, nice job. So is this going to be available on the forum somewhere?
yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I should put it as the download or just put it. That's another reason why I didn't upload it. I didn't know where I should upload it because if it's on the downloads folder, I'm worried that people are actually gonna extract it. You don't want to extract it. You want to just put the zip file in the item templates. But if I put it in a form in 6 months, it's just gonna get buried. So I might just do a zip within a zip, and then I might just make a text file saying, "Do not unzip
Uh,
these. Just put it here."
just upload the zip and let Pain be their teacher.
Okay. All right, and just make an item for each one, right? Because I guess some people might not want objects, but components are really the big thing. So.
Okay, cool, awesome.
Yep.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so as far as our first-person shooter example goes, there all the limitations we have had are now gone. We can do anything we want without a lot of work. Like all of our problems go away, and just all these possibilities have now opened up. So I have no preconceptions of where we should go with it now. I suggest people just experiment with the material painting and see what you come up with, see what looks cool to you, without having a lot of ideas of what you're actually going to do with it. Let's just find out what this system is actually capable of.
Yeah. Yeah. Once you get the shaders working out again on
Yeah,
video.
this weekend.
Yeah.
By the way, like this segue to our sponsor. If you guys are happy with the way things are going, Steam reviews are the best way to express your happiness. We have a very good review score on Steam, but we could use a higher number. It's not just the percentage, it's the number of reviews itself matters a lot. So the more reviews we get, the easier it will be for me to go back to Valve and ask them for special coverage during some special feature like we've had in the past. And of course, if our Steam page has good visibility, then your games, if they are featured in a games bundle for Ultra, will also have good visibility. The Leadworks Games bundle was released in September. It's done very well. Everyone who participated has tripled their sales. So if Steam reviews, it helps me a lot more than anything else. It helps you. It helps us all, and we all win with if Ultra has good visibility in the Steam store. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your reviews, and please, if you haven't done yours yet, feel free to add it because it really makes a big difference. So today we have a special guest with he's here a lot, but he's still special. Vita Marcel is going to be showing us a demonstration of Quixel Mixer, which is very cool because there's a lot of overlap between that technology and the material painting stuff we're doing here. Different ways of doing the same thing, because Quixel Mixer, it's more focused on a single model or a single texture. What we're doing is more across the level, but I think there's a lot of overlap in concepts and ideas there. So we'll start that in in a minute. I'm actually going to do that make that a separate video because I think it's good enough that it just stands on its own. So if we don't have any other questions, we'll wrap this video up.
The only other question I have for the FPS template, since we're back to square one, what it should look like. Um, I don't know what the models should look like then. And we made a map based on a certain theme, but
And we didn't get very far with it. We got to like the materials, and then it just kind of like that's when I kind of realized we needed something different. So we can continue on that direction. We can go back to the X form plan. We can do either of them. We can do neither of them. I'm like our capabilities are completely different now because of this
right.
feature. Um,
Well, I I say I say since art is not going to be an issue, I think when 9.8 goes out, I think we should just worry about the components and making sure they work, because it doesn't matter what our game looks like now, because we just need everything working first. Like it could just be dev textures for a little bit.
mm, no, I think it should be beautiful.
Well, no, I mean, like, not we're not gonna shit with developed textures, but we're gonna like. I think we should like get our monsters working first before we decide layout.
I'm more concerned about. I want to see what the artwork looks like because the other stuff is very easy.
All right. Well,
I'm really curious to see what this kind of what can be done. I mean, this was just me like playing around. Like I don't know why there's gravel and there's boulders, these round boulders growing out of the wall. It doesn't make any sense, but it looks very cool.
yeah, it's like sea barnacles. They remind me of sea barnacles.
Yeah, it's your Baltimore wall barnacles.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm really curious to see what you guys are able to do with this, um, like this kind of stuff. I mean, we can do so much now. We can use all these materials that we were very frustrated with previously because they were, it was very hard to construct a scene out of them. Now they're actually useful. Now we can just paint unique detail anywhere we want.
Do you know
So
what we should do with the FPS panel? We should prove. We should eat our own dog food and just use the ambient CG stuff, and let's like see what we can make with just that
yeah,
instead of making like custom textures. This way, you can prove like, hey, you don't need to be a texture artist. You can just use ambient CG and just use the painting tool and everything, and your games can look great.
that's kind of what I was thinking because it's like it's just so much more efficient. If we can do it
Right.
that way, then and just like so
Yeah.
just make sure nothing is overly saturated so you don't have color clashing,
Right.
and then use like the surface imperfections and whatever other materials you find that are good to add gunk and grime and stuff all throughout the scene, and that kind of like that makes it so that see the critical thing here is in 3D computer graphics, since like ever since
Mhm.
texture mapping became a thing, all your surfaces were very had no connection to each other at all.
Right.
Your walls and your floors were too complete. There was a hard line between those things. There was no transition between those things. There was no interplay of those materials. So being able to do stuff like this is something completely new. I mean, we could do stuff sort of like this if we put a ton of time into it and we knew from the start exactly what we wanted.
Right.
But just the fact that we can just paint this stuff everywhere we want. I mean,
I
this
think
is
I think we should stay away from with at least with world materials. I think we should stay away from like metal panels that rust. I think we should just get a clean panel and then paint the rust on, or else the rust will look repetitive.
yeah, that might be, and so that's like the total opposite of what we were saying before. Because like
Right.
before we were like, oh, there's no detail on this. This looks very boring. And now it's like, well, we can just add the detail and it'll all be unique wherever we want.
Yeah. So, but there's a lot of materials on MSCG that actually have the rust in it. We probably don't want that now.
Or
So
what
it
you might
probably,
find, like these tiles, I actually really like this tile material. What I found is there's a few different variations of it, and some of the variations have like a bunch of chunks missing,
yeah,
and you could use those together. Like put the normal clean version down, and then paint the missing chunks in wherever you want them to appear, like the missing
yeah,
tiles.
yeah. And we can,
I mean,
or
there's
you could do like a variance where it. We will have to play with it. There's just a lot of things now we can do, but I think there might, if anything, if there's any going to be manual painting, it's mostly just going to be us taking the MSCD CG material or texture and then being like, oh well, I want this to be cleaner so I can paint the rust or the grime on it in the editor or something. Or oh, I need to complete this floor tile so I can take tiles out in the editor. So it's just simple Photoshop we just need to do.
Yeah, I don't know how much texture editing we'll need to do now even.
I'm just saying if we really like a
Yeah.
look of a we can we can this again we're not starting from zero. It's like oh okay well, like we'll start here and because I was working on some textures myself and I found like metal textures I really liked but they were like colorful like they were like vibrant blue and green and I'm like I just want this to be white and
Mm.
all I did was just did some color manipulation and now that it's white it could be any color I want.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's a lot to learn here. I think we just need to like start making stuff, and that's the only way that we're going to figure out what we can actually do with it. But yeah, the sky is the limit. Stuff is so cool, and it's what I love about it is it makes it easy for anybody to like anybody here can easily make something that looks AAA. I mean,
Yeah,
especially once we figure out like what materials and techniques really look good together. We're just starting to learn this stuff, but and that's another reason that I'm very interested in Marcel's demonstration today.
yeah.
So
But he's gonna just do the models. I think he's just gonna do per model instead. Like we're doing it. We need the solution for the level, but I think per model, unless you do something in your tools. But this is actually very detailed per model
right,
painting.
right. So different technique, but a lot of overlap, and I think we can probably learn a lot from him.
Mhm. All
So
right,
let's stop the video now,
yep, I'll shut up.
and